The United States government is about to kill the penny. And when that's satisfying for the 5 pennies I'm about to show you, because these specific coins are already selling for $10,000, $20,000, even $40,000 at auction. And the craziest part? They look like junk, beat up, scratched, pulled straight from a parking lot. But if you know what to look for, and I'm going to show you exactly what to look for, you could be sitting on a life-changing payday hiding in your pocket change right now. These are the 5 pennies you need to save before it's too late. It's filthy. It's beat up. It looks like something you'd sweep off the floor and throw away without thinking twice. Don't. You dare. In 1943, the United States was deep in World War II. Copper was needed for bullets, for bombs, for the war effort. So the U.S. Mint made a decision. Pennies switched from copper to steel, coated in zinc, gray and shiny, easy to spot. But here's where it gets wild. A small number of copper penny blanks, called planchets, were left sitting in the machines from 1942. Before anyone caught it, those copper blanks went through the press, and pennies that were never supposed to exist got made. Nobody knows exactly how many survived. Experts estimate fewer than 40 exist today. 40 in the entire world. And here's what the penny ban means for a coin like this. When the last pennies are pulled from circulation, when they stop making them forever, every one of those 40 coins becomes a piece of history that can never be replaced. Not by any mint. Not by any government. Not by anyone. The prices are already moving. A 1943 copper penny sold in 2010 for $1.7 million. That same coin today, experts say it could push $2 million. So how do you know if you have one? Step 1, look at the date. You want 1943. Step 2, the magnet test. Steel pennies stick to a magnet. Copper pennies do not. If your 1943 penny does not stick to that magnet, stop everything. Put it in a soft cloth. Don't clean it. Don't rub it. Call a professional coin authenticator or submit it to PCGs or NGC immediately. Now here's the trap that catches people every single time. Some fakes exist. People take a steel 1943 penny and plate it in copper. It looks convincing. It even feels convincing. But the magnet never lies. The magnet is your truth detector. Every single 1943 penny you ever touch, magnet test first. Every single one. Because somewhere right now there are 1943 copper pennies that have never been identified. The penny ban countdown has started. Once they stop making pennies forever, the hunt gets harder, and the coins worth millions get even more valuable. That's coin number 1. Don't look away yet. The next coin looks completely normal until you know exactly where to look. All right, let's start with a penny that could be hiding in any jar, any coin roll, any pocket in America right now. The 1982 D small date copper penny. And this one is sold for over $7,000. Here's why. In 1982, the government quietly changed what pennies are made of. They went from real copper, heavy solid copper, to cheap zinc with a thin copper coating. But during that switch, the Denver Mint made a mistake. They stamped a small date design onto a leftover copper blank. That was never supposed to happen. And that means if you find one, you are holding one of the rarest modern pennies in existence. So here's how you spot it. First, the date. Look at the 2 in 1982. On a small date penny, that 2 sits low, tucked right in line with the other numbers. On a large date, that 2 rides high. It's bigger, it sticks up above the rest. Put them side by side and you'll see it instantly. But here's the real test, and this is the one that matters. Pick up that penny and weigh it. A copper penny weighs 3.1 grams. A zinc penny, only 2.5 grams. That's a huge difference. You can literally feel it in your hand. If your 1982 D small date feels heavy, if that scale hits 3.1, you might be holding a $7,000 coin that the government never meant to make. At first glance, this is nothing. Just a beat-up 1955 penny. Looks like something your grandfather tossed in a dish decades ago and never thought about again. But look closer. Look at that. That is not a trick of the light. That is the 1955 double-die Lincoln penny, one of the most famous mint errors in American coin history. Here's what happened. In 1955, at the Philadelphia Mint, something went wrong during the hubbing process, the process where the design gets transferred onto the die that stamps coins. The hub rotated slightly between impressions, just enough. And every coin stamped from that die came out with a doubled image baked permanently into the metal. They caught it fast, but not fast enough. Between 20,000 and 24,000 of these coins got out, mixed into regular bags of cents, shipped to banks, dropped into cash registers, handed back as change to people who had no idea what they were holding. And here's the gut punch. Most of them got spent. Regular people, not knowing what they had, used them to buy coffee, a newspaper, a candy bar, one by one. Gone forever. The ones that survived, they're selling for $50,000 in circulated grades. Find one uncirculated? That cracks 6 figures. So how do you spot it? You're looking for the date first. 1955. Now look at the numbers. If there's doubling, if you can see 2 outlines of the same digit slightly offset, like the coin was stamped twice, you are holding something extraordinary. The doubling is not subtle on this coin. The numbers almost look like they were printed twice. You'll also see it on Liberty and In God We Trust. The whole obverse tells the same story. Now, critical warning. Lots of 1955 pennies have what collectors call machine doubling. This is not the same thing. Machine doubling creates flat, shelf-like edges on the lettering. It adds zero value. Dealers see it constantly. It's worthless. The real double die has raised, rounded, distinct secondary images on every element. Both impressions look fully formed. If it looks sharp and three-dimensional on both versions of the letter or number, that's your coin. With the penny ban accelerating, coins like this are disappearing into collections never to resurface. Every roll of pennies cashed in at a bank is another chance gone. Coin number 2. The double vision coin that could double your life. Don't spend it. This next penny has a mistake so obvious you can see it without a magnifying glass. And the government never caught it. Thousands of these rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint and straight into people's pockets. Today, one of them is worth over $10,000. It's the 1972 double die obverse, no mint mark. Just a plain 1972 penny. And the error is hiding right on the front of the coin, in a spot you look at every single day. Look at the words Liberty and In God We Trust. On a normal penny, those letters are clean, sharp, one set of letters. On this one, every single letter looks like it has a shadow, a ghost image sitting right next to it. The date, the motto, all of it, doubled. Here's your test. Pull out any 1972 penny, no mint mark on the front. Hold it under a bright light. Tilt it slowly. If those letters look blurry, like your eyes are playing tricks on you, they're not. That's the double die. And you're looking at serious money. One of these sold at auction for over $10,000. Not some perfect coin in a case. A circulated, worn, ugly penny that someone almost threw away. Now, you just saw a penny worth $7,000. Then $10,000. But the next one on this list? It's so rare, so valuable, that collectors have literally been caught faking them. The real one is worth more than most people's cars. This penny is so valuable that people have gone to prison trying to fake it. Coin number 3. The $100,000 controversy. This penny looks destroyed. Totally gone. The kind of thing you would drop in a tip jar without a second glance. But look closely at the back of the coin. Do you see 3 tiny letters at the very bottom? VDB. Those 3 letters can be worth $100,000. Here is the story, and it is one of the most dramatic stories in American coin history. In 1909, the United States Mint made a historic decision. For the first time ever, a real person would appear on an American circulating coin. That person was Abraham Lincoln. To design the new penny, the Mint hired a sculptor named Victor David Brenner. Brenner poured everything into the design. He created the famous Lincoln portrait on the front. On the reverse, he added the two wheat stalks that collectors still love today. And like many artists of the time, he added his initials to the design. VDB3 small letters placed at the bottom of the reverse. At first, the coin was a huge success. People loved the new Lincoln cent. But then the newspapers got involved. Suddenly, the headlines were everywhere. Reporters started accusing Brenner of promoting himself on a government coin. They demanded to know why his initials were there. The pressure grew so intense that the United States Mint panicked. At the San Francisco Mint, only 484,000 pennies had been struck with both the S Mint mark and the VDB initials. Then the Mint made a drastic decision. They stopped production and removed the initials from the design. Just like that, the original version disappeared. Only those 484,000 San Francisco coins were ever made with both the S Mint mark and the VDB initials together. And that tiny number is what makes this coin legendary. To understand how rare that is, consider this. The Philadelphia Mint produced around 27 million pennies that same year. San Francisco made only 484,000. Every authentic example from San Francisco has two important markers. First, the S Mint mark below the date. Second, the VDB initials at the bottom of the reverse between the wheat stalks. When those two features appear together, collectors know exactly what they are looking at. The 1909 SVDB. For Lincoln cent collectors, it is the Holy Grail. Here is how you check your coins. Step 1. Look at the date. It must say 1909. Step 2. Look directly under the date. You need to see the small letter S. If there is no S, it was made in Philadelphia and it is far less valuable. Step 3. Flip the coin over. At the very bottom of the reverse between the wheat stalks, look for the three small initials. VDB. If your coin has all three things, the 1909 date, the S Mint mark, and the VDB initials, that coin should never leave your hand. Even heavily worn examples can sell for more than $3,000. Nice circulated coins often sell between $20,000 and $50,000. And pristine mint state examples can reach six figures, $100,000 or more. Now think about this in the bigger picture. If the penny eventually disappears from circulation forever, coins like the 1909 SVVDB become even more important to collectors. They represent the beginning of the Lincoln cent series, the first year, the biggest controversy, and one of the rarest combinations ever released. Three tiny letters changed the history of the American penny. Do not be the person who throws that away. And the next coin on this list is even more unbelievable. Coin number 4 is so rare that some professional coin dealers have never seen one in person. The Secret Service has actually investigated counterfeit versions of this coin. That's not a joke. A 1-cent coin. And federal agents got involved. It's the 1969 S double die obverse. And a real one has sold for over $100,000. The doubling on this penny is even more dramatic than the last one. Same spot, Liberty, and God We Trust, the date. But this time, the ghost letters are thicker, bolder, almost like someone stamped the coin twice and didn't care who noticed. But here's the problem. Because this coin is worth $100,000, fakers take a regular 1969 penny from Philadelphia, no mint mark, and they glue a tiny S onto it. Looks real to the naked eye. Fooled a lot of people. So forget the doubling for a second. Your real test is that S. Grab a magnifying glass. Look at the mint mark below the date. On a real 1969 S, that S is punched clean into the metal. Smooth, sharp, part of the coin. On a fake, that S looks raised, lumpy, like something was stuck on top. Run your fingernail over it. If you can feel an edge around that S, it's fake. If it's flush with the surface, you might be holding a six-figure penny. One of these sold for $126,000. A single penny, found in circulation, not by an expert, by someone who knew what to look for. Exactly like you do right now. 2 pennies down worth $7,000 and $10,000. One worth 6 figures. But the next coin on this list, it's the most legendary penny ever made. Only a handful exist on the entire planet, and the last one that sold went for over $1 million. During World War II, the government needed every scrap of copper to make bullet casings. So in 1943, they ordered the U.S. Mint to stop making copper pennies. Every single 1943 penny was supposed to be struck in steel. Supposed to be. Because someone at the Mint left a handful of copper blanks in the press. And the machine didn't care. It stamped them anyway. Those pennies were never supposed to exist. And one of them sold for $1.7 million. This is the 1943 copper penny. And fewer than 20 are known to exist in the entire world. Now here's the problem. Everybody knows about this coin, which means people fake them. They take a regular steel 1943 penny and coat it in copper. They file down a 1948 to look like a 1943. Fakes are everywhere. But there's one test that exposes every single fake in 2 seconds flat. Grab a magnet. A normal 1943 penny is steel. Put a magnet near it and it snaps right on. Sticks like glue. That's a regular penny, worth a couple bucks. But if you put that magnet on a 1943 penny and it slides right off, that penny isn't steel. It's copper. And you could be holding $1 million coin. No fancy equipment. No grading service. Just a refrigerator magnet and a 1943 penny. That's it. One sold in 2021 for over $1 million. Another went for $1.7 million. Circulated. Worn. Ugly. Didn't matter. The copper is what mattered. You just saw pennies worth $7,000, $10,000, and now $1.7 million. But the last penny on this list? It's so impossible, so bizarre that some experts said it couldn't even be real, until it sold at auction and shut everyone up. This last penny is so rare the government says it doesn't exist. They've denied it for decades. But collectors know the truth, because one of these sold quietly for over $50,000. It's the 1959 D Mule penny. And to understand why it's worth a fortune, you need to know what happened in 1959. That was the year the Mint changed the back of the penny, got rid of the wheat ears, replaced them with the Lincoln Memorial. Every single 1959 penny was supposed to have the new memorial design on the back. But someone at the Denver Mint made a mistake, grabbed the wrong die, and stamped a 1959 D penny with the old wheat ears on the back. 2 designs that were never supposed to be together on the same coin. That's called a mule, and it's the holy grail of penny errors. Here's your test, and it's the easiest one on this entire list. Find any 1959 penny with a D Mint mark. Flip it over. If you see the Lincoln Memorial, it's normal, worth a few cents. But if you see wheat ears on the back of a 1959 D penny, do not spend that coin. Do not clean it. Do not touch it. Put it in a safe place and call an auction house. The Mint says this coin was never made, but multiple examples have surfaced. And the last one that traded hands? Over $50,000. For a penny someone found in a jar of old change. People would throw this coin away. It's dirty, scratched, discolored. It almost looks like it was dug straight out of the ground. But coins that look exactly like this one have shocked collectors before. Because sometimes the ugliest pennies hide the most valuable surprises. And that's exactly why you should never ignore an old wheat penny. This particular coin is from 1937. At first glance, it doesn't seem special at all. Just another worn Lincoln penny that has clearly spent decades moving through pockets, cash registers, and change jars. But collectors pay close attention to wheat pennies from the 1930s. Because hidden among millions of ordinary coins are rare varieties that can be worth far more than 1 cent. Here's the strange truth about coin collecting that most people don't realize. Condition matters, but rarity matters much more. A perfectly shiny common coin might still be worth only 1 penny, but a dirty coin with the right mint mistake or rare variety can suddenly be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And that's why experienced collectors never ignore wheat pennies from the Great Depression era. The year 1937 sits right in the middle of that period. During the 1930s, pennies were used heavily across the United States. They passed through thousands of hands, traveled across cities, and spent years in circulation. Because of that, most wheat pennies from this time look exactly like this one. Dark brown, scratched, worn smooth after decades of use. But that heavy circulation also means something very important. Some of those coins were struck with unusual die varieties or mint mistakes that went completely unnoticed when they were first released. At the time, nobody was checking pocket change for rare coins. People were simply using pennies to buy groceries, newspapers, and bus tickets. It took decades before collectors began carefully studying these coins. And when they did, they discovered that some ordinary-looking wheat pennies were actually extremely collectible. Some coins showed subtle doubling in the lettering. Others had small striking irregularities. Some had die cracks or unusual details that only appear on a small number of coins. And the fascinating part is that many of these discoveries happened long after the coins had already spent years circulating through everyday change, which means the coin didn't look special at all. In fact, it looked just like the one you're seeing here. Old, dirty, worn from years of use. And that's why collectors always slow down when they see a wheat penny from the 1930s. Because sometimes the coin that looks the worst is the one nobody bothered to inspect closely. There's another important reason collectors actually like finding old pennies in rough condition. Cleaning a coin can destroy its collector value instantly. Many people think polishing a coin makes it more valuable. In reality, it often does the opposite. Once a coin has been cleaned or altered, collectors can usually spot it immediately, and the value drops dramatically. That's why a naturally aged coin with original surfaces is often far more desirable, even if it looks dark, dirty, or scratched from decades of circulation. It proves the coin hasn't been tampered with. Now let's talk about value. Most worn 1937 wheat pennies sell for only a few cents. But certain varieties and higher-grade examples have sold for far more, depending on the specific characteristics of the coin. And that's the entire reason collectors still search through jars of old pennies today. Because every once in a while someone discovers that the coin they almost spent for 1 cent is actually worth much more. It might be hiding in a coffee can full of loose change. It might be sitting at the bottom of an old drawer. Or it might be mixed into a jar of pennies that nobody has touched for years. And that possibility is what keeps collectors searching. Because the next coin we're about to look at proves something even more surprising. Sometimes the most damaged, scratched, and ordinary-looking pennies turn out to be the most valuable ones hiding in plain sight. Stop. Don't skip this one. I know what you're thinking. 1992. That's not old. That's not rare. I've seen 1,000 of those pennies. And that's exactly what makes this so dangerous. Because most people blow right past this coin and walk away from $25,000. Here's what you're looking for. Flip the penny to the back. Find the word America. Now zoom in, really zoom in, right between the letter A and the letter M. On a normal 1992 penny, you'll see a visible gap between those two letters. Clear daylight. Space you can see with a basic magnifier. That's the common coin. That's the 1 cent coin. But on this penny, the one the mint wasn't supposed to make, that gap is almost completely gone. The A and the M are practically kissing, almost touching. A hair's width apart, that one tiny difference, that one microscopic minting mistake. That's the difference between 1 cent and $25,000. Here's the story. Back in 1992, the U.S. Mint was already working on updating their coin dies for the following year. The new 1993 design had a slightly different reverse, including that closer spacing between the A and the M in America. But somehow a small number of 1992 pennies were struck with that updated 1993 die before anyone caught the mistake. Those coins got bagged up, shipped out, and dumped straight into circulation. Nobody flagged them. Nobody stopped them. And the people who received them had zero idea what they were holding. They spent them, lost them, tossed them in fountains, dropped them in tip jars. And for years, decades, most of them disappeared forever. Now only a tiny number of confirmed examples are known to exist. And when one surfaced at a major coin show in the early 2000s, the bidding war that broke out shocked even veteran dealers. A circulated example, worn, scratched, beat up, can still bring $10,000 to $15,000. A nicer one? 20 grand. A mint state example and a certified holder? 25,000 and climbing. So how do you find one? Pull out every 1992 penny you've got. Turn on your phone flashlight. Hold the light at a low angle to the coin almost parallel to the surface. Flip to the reverse. Zoom in on the word America with your phone camera. If you see clear space between the A and M, set it aside. Common coin. Check the next one. But if those letters are almost touching, if there's barely a sliver of light between them, do not spend that coin. Do not lose that coin. Put it in a protective flip and get it to a grader. Here's the thing that most people miss. This coin isn't famous. It doesn't have a nickname like the double die. It doesn't get talked about on the news. And that's exactly why it's still out there. Right now. In rolls of pennies people haven't opened in years. In estate sale coin collections. In jars sitting on kitchen counters across America. Most people who have this coin have no idea it exists. They're sitting on thousands of dollars and spending them one at a time at the coffee shop. 1 cent. $25,000. The difference is a gap you almost can't see. Check your change. Check your rolls. Check every single 1992 penny you come across. Because this coin is being hoarded, saved, and pulled from circulation faster every single day, and the ones still hiding in pocket change, they won't be there much longer. This is not a normal penny. Something is wrong with it. And that something wrong is worth $1.7 million. One penny. $1.7 million. Now take a look at this next penny. At first glance, it looks just as ordinary as the last one. The surface is dull, the color is uneven, and the details on Lincoln's face have clearly been worn down after decades of circulation. Most people would glance at a coin like this and immediately assume it's worth 1 cent. But this penny comes from a year that collectors pay very close attention to. This is a 1938 Lincoln wheat penny. And just like many coins from the late 1930s, millions of these pennies traveled through everyday American life. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, newspaper stands, and countless pockets during a time when a single penny actually had real buying power. Because of that constant use, most surviving examples look exactly like this one. Worn, scratched, and covered in decades of natural aging. But that's exactly what makes coins from this period so interesting to collectors. Because hidden among the ordinary coins are a few rare varieties and striking quirks that can dramatically increase value. Many collectors know that the late wheat penny era produced a surprising number of subtle die varieties. Sometimes the lettering appears slightly doubled. Other times the mint mark may have been struck more than once. And occasionally tiny changes in the die itself create small features that only appear on a limited number of coins. These details are often extremely small, and most people would never notice them while casually looking through pocket change. But experienced collectors examine coins from this era very carefully, because they know that one small detail can completely change the value of a coin. And here's the fascinating part. Many valuable wheat pennies were not discovered until long after they had already circulated for decades, meaning the coin looked old and completely ordinary by the time someone realized what they were holding. Coins like this one often sat unnoticed in jars of loose change, coffee cans, or dresser drawers for years before anyone thought to examine them closely. And when collectors finally did, they sometimes discovered varieties that had been hiding in plain sight the entire time. The 1938 wheat penny is a perfect example of how coins from this era can still surprise people. Because even though millions were produced, collectors continue to study these coins looking for subtle details that separate an ordinary coin from a rare one. And that's exactly why people who search through wheat pennies rarely ignore coins from the 1930s. They know the value of a coin isn't always obvious at first glance. A penny that looks worn and unremarkable might still hold a hidden feature that collectors want. And the truth is, the majority of valuable coins didn't start out looking special. They started out looking exactly like this. A simple penny that spent decades being used for everyday transactions. But every once in a while, someone looks a little closer and realizes the coin they almost spent might actually be worth far more than its face value. And the next coin we're about to look at takes that idea even further. Because the next wheat penny on this list proves that sometimes the coins people ignore the most are the ones collectors end up chasing the hardest. Let me say that again so it sinks in. A single penny that looks like it came out of a gumball machine sold at auction for $1,700,000. That's not a typo. That's not a mistake. That's the 1944 steel wheat penny. And it might be the most shocking coin on this entire list. Here's what happened. It's 1944. America is at war. Everything, and I mean everything, is being rationed. Copper was desperately needed for shell casings, wiring, military equipment. So in 1943, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision. Pennies would be made from zinc-coated steel instead of copper. They called them steel cents. Steelies. And they worked, but they caused problems immediately. They looked too much like dimes. They rusted. Vending machines rejected them. People hated them. So after just 1 year in 1944, the mint went back to copper. But here's where it gets wild. A tiny number of steel planchets, the blank discs used to strike 1943 pennies, got left behind in the coin presses. And when the mint started striking 1944 copper pennies, a few of those leftover steel blanks accidentally got fed into the machine. The result was a coin that should not exist. A 1944 penny struck in steel, a coin that breaks every rule, and people have been finding them ever since. So how do you know if you've got one? The fastest test in the world, a magnet. If your 1944 penny sticks to a magnet, you might be holding one of the most valuable coins in American history. Copper doesn't stick to magnets. Steel does. It's that simple. It's that fast. And it's a test anyone can do with a refrigerator magnet in 10 seconds. Now be careful. Some 1943 steel pennies got copper-plated by people trying to fake rare coins, and some 1944 copper pennies got steel-plated as novelties. So a magnet test gets you in the right neighborhood, but you'll want a professional grade and authentication before you start celebrating. But here's the truth. Confirmed 1944 steel pennies in top grades have sold for 6 figures, 7 figures, and beyond. The world record sale, $1.7 million, was for a mint state example in extraordinary condition. Even a worn, circulated example, scratched, dark, beat up, can bring $50,000 or more when authenticated. These coins exist. People have found them. Most were found by accident, someone sorting through an old coin collection, a jar of wheat cents picked up at an estate sale, a roll of old pennies from a bank, They weren't looking for it. They just happened to test a coin that felt slightly different. Go through every wheat penny you own, every 1944 you can find, every dark, worn coin that might look slightly off. Run the magnet test. And if it sticks, your life just changed. 1931, the worst economic collapse in American history. Now here's another penny that many people would completely overlook. At first glance, it looks ordinary. The color is faded, the surface shows clear signs of circulation, and Lincoln's portrait has the soft, worn appearance that comes from years of use. But this coin comes from a year that holds a very interesting place in American history. This is a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny, and that date alone makes it part of one of the most fascinating periods in U.S. coin production. Because 1945 was the final year of World War II. During the early 1940s, the United States Mint had already made dramatic changes to the penny. In 1943, pennies were famously produced from steel instead of copper, because copper was needed for the war effort. But by 1944, the mint returned to copper-based pennies using recycled metal that often came from spent shell casings. That means pennies from 1944, 1945, and 1946 were struck from a unique wartime metal mixture. And while millions of these coins were produced, they circulated heavily during a time when every penny counted. As a result, most examples that survive today look exactly like this one: worn, dull, and clearly used in everyday life. But collectors still examine 1945 wheat pennies very carefully, because coins from this era sometimes reveal subtle minting quirks that went completely unnoticed when they first entered circulation. Some examples show small doubling in the lettering, others display die cracks or minor striking variations that can make them more desirable to collectors. And because these coins circulated for decades, many of those varieties weren't discovered until long after the coins were already worn down. Which means the valuable examples didn't always look impressive. In fact, they often look just like this: a simple penny that spent years moving through ordinary transactions. That's one of the reasons wheat pennies from the 1940s remain so popular with collectors today. They represent a moment in history when the country was going through enormous changes, yet these tiny coins were still being produced and used by millions of people every day. Every time someone bought a newspaper, paid for a bus ride, or made a small purchase at a local store, coins like this one were part of that exchange, and over time they slowly wore down as they passed from hand to hand. That's why finding an old wheat penny today can feel like holding a small piece of American history, even when the coin looks worn or ordinary. Because sometimes the most interesting coins aren't the ones that look perfect. They're the ones that clearly show the passage of time. And every once in a while, someone takes a closer look and discovers that the penny they almost ignored actually holds a hidden detail collectors are searching for. And the next coin we're about to look at proves that point perfectly. Because the next wheat penny on this list shows how even a rough-looking coin can sometimes turn out to be far more interesting than people expect. Banks are failing. Families are losing everything. Unemployment hits 25%, and in that darkness, the San Francisco Mint strikes fewer than 1 million pennies, 866,000 coins. That's it. That's the entire 1931 S mintage. To put that in perspective, the Philadelphia Mint made over 19 million pennies that same year. The San Francisco Mint made less than 1 million. And because the Depression was raging, people were hoarding every coin they could find. Coin dealers bought up rolls of 1931 S pennies and sat on them. Collectors grabbed what they could. The coins that made it into circulation got worn down fast. Finding a nice one today? Nearly impossible. Here's what to look for. The date reads 1931. Flip the coin slightly or look just below the date on the obverse. You're looking for a tiny S. That S stands for San Francisco, and that tiny letter is the difference between a common penny and one worth $100,000. Now here's something wild. During the Depression, coin collectors were paying attention. Many 1931 S pennies were pulled from circulation and saved, which is why you actually find some in decent condition today. But the ones that did circulate, they're worn smooth, nicked, beat up, and even those bring serious money. A well-worn example in fine grade still sells for several $1,000s. A coin with some luster remaining in very fine or extremely fine can bring $15,000 to $30,000. And a mint state example with original red luster, 6 figures. So where do you find one? Wheat pennies. That's your hunting ground. If you've got any collection of old wheat cents, especially ones from the 1930s, go through every single one. Pick up each coin, check the date first. If it reads 1931, set it aside immediately. Then, very carefully, look just below and to the right of the last digit in the date. You're looking for that tiny letter S. Use good lighting. Use a magnifier if you have one. Tilt the coin slightly toward a light source. Raking light will make that mint mark pop. And don't dismiss worn examples. Don't think a scratched penny isn't worth checking. Some of the most valuable 1931 S coins that have hit the market looked like they'd been through a war, because they basically had been. This coin survived the Great Depression. It survived decades in circulation. It survived being lost, forgotten, buried in jars and coffee cans and sock drawers. It's tougher than it looks. 866,000 made, most gone forever. The ones that are left, worth a fortune. And the window to find them in the wild is closing fast. All right, let's kick things off with a coin that could be hiding a $50,000 secret in plain sight. Take a look at this. It's a 1944 D. Lincoln wheat penny. Looks like any other old penny, right? Maybe a little dirty, a little scratched. You might see this and think just a common old coin worth a few cents. But what if I told you that this very penny, or one just like it, could be one of the rarest, most valuable coins on the planet? This is where the magnet test comes in. Normally, a 1944 penny is made of copper. It won't stick to a magnet. That's good to know. But if you have a 1944 D penny and a magnet actually sticks to it, hold on to your hats. You just hit the jackpot. What you'd be holding in that incredibly rare instance is a 1944 D steel wheat penny. Now, most collectors know about the 1943 steel pennies. That was during World War II when copper was desperately needed for ammunition. So, the U.S. Mint made pennies out of zinc-coated steel. But in 1944, they switched back to copper. However, a tiny handful of steel planches, those blank coin discs, accidentally got mixed in with the copper ones at the Denver Mint. The D mint mark tells us it was minted in Denver. These accidental 1944 D steel pennies are extraordinarily rare. We're talking about only 7 known examples in existence. Think about that for a second. More people have won the lottery than have found one of these. And here's the kicker, these aren't always pretty coins. They're often found decades later, corroded, dirty, looking anything but valuable. But their humble appearance does nothing to diminish their worth. A verified 1944 D steel cent can fetch anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, or even more depending on its condition. Even a heavily circulated, damaged one is a major discovery. So, the next time you're sifting through your pennies, keep an eye out for that 1944 date, look for the D mint mark, and something is wrong with this penny. Look at the date. Look right below it. Every 1922 penny made in Denver should have a small letter D, the mint mark, sitting right below the date. But on this one, it's gone. Completely gone. No D, no mint mark at all. That missing letter is worth $114,000. Here's the story. In 1922, the Philadelphia Mint didn't produce any pennies at all. That almost never happened. The only pennies made that year came from the Denver Mint, and they all should have had that D mint mark stamped in. But the Denver Mint was under enormous pressure. They were producing massive quantities of coins. The coin dies, the metal stamps used to press each coin were wearing out fast. And as dies wear down, the details they press into coins get weaker and weaker. Some of those worn-out dies had gotten so damaged that the D mint mark was barely pressing in at all. And on a small number of coins, the D disappeared entirely, ground away, or simply too worn out to leave any impression. Those coins went out into circulation. Nobody checked them. Nobody pulled them. And because Philadelphia hadn't made any pennies that year, these no-D coins created instant confusion. Was it a Philadelphia coin? Was it a Denver coin with a missing mark? The mystery drove collectors wild. Today, numismatists recognize several die varieties for the 1922 no-D, some weaker than others. The most valuable are the strong reverse examples, coins where the front has barely any D, but the back of the coin is still sharp and well struck. So how do you find one? Hunt through any batch of old Lincoln wheat pennies you can find. Estate sales, flea markets, coin lots online, these are your treasure hunting grounds. When you find a 1922 Lincoln cent, here's what you do. Step 1. Check the date. Make sure it reads 1922. Step 2. Look immediately below the date. Look for that D. If you see no D at all, or just a faint ghost of a letter that barely registers, set that coin aside immediately. Step 3. Look at the reverse. Is it sharp? Are the wheat stalks and the words clear and well-defined? The better the reverse detail on a weak obverse no-D coin, the more valuable it becomes. This combination, ghost D on the front, strong details on the back, is the holy grail of 1922 Lincoln cents. Graded examples have sold from $10,000 all the way up to $114,000. And worn, beat up, heavily circulated examples still bring several $1,000s at auction, just for being genuine. One missing letter. No D. No mint mark. No explanation. Unless you know the story. Next up, we have a penny that almost looks too common to be true. A 1958 Lincoln wheat penny. Billions of these were made. You'd probably toss it back into the change jar without a second thought. But this seemingly ordinary coin holds a secret so profound, so astronomically rare, that it's known as one of the most valuable errors in U.S. numismatic history. We're talking about a penny that has commanded over $1 million at auction. We're talking about the 1958 double die obverse penny. A double die error happens during the minting process when the die, the stamp that imprints the design onto the coin, strikes the blank coin multiple times from slightly different angles. This causes the lettering and certain design elements to appear as if they've been printed twice, slightly offset, creating a ghostly, blurred, or shadowed effect. For the 1958 do, this doubling is most visible on the word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust," and sometimes even the date. But here's why the 1958 Dido is so special, so valuable, and so incredibly elusive. As of today, only 3 examples of a genuine 1958 double die obverse cent are officially known to exist. 3. That's it. It's an error that was almost perfectly corrected at the mint, making the few that escaped truly legendary. One of these phenomenal coins sold at auction for an astounding $1.13 million. Imagine that. A penny, a single humble penny, found its way to a millionaire status. This is the ultimate ugly coin turns into a supermodel story. So, what does this mean for you? Every 1958 penny you encounter should be carefully inspected. Use a magnifying glass. Look at Liberty and the date. Are the letters thick? Do they look like they're overlapping or casting a shadow? Even a subtle hint of doubling could mean you've stumbled upon one of the greatest treasures in coin collecting. This is a game of extreme odds, but the payoff is astronomical. Don't overlook any 1958 penny. It might just be your $1 million ticket. This coin looks like any other old wheat penny. It's dark. It's worn. It fits in your palm like 1,000 other coins you've held in your life. But that date, 1914. And that tiny D below it. That combination makes this penny one of the rarest, most sought-after coins in all of American history. $155,000 for a penny. Here's what you need to know. In 1914, the Denver Mint struck just over 1 million Lincoln cents. That sounds like a lot, until you compare it to the Philadelphia Mint, which made over 75 million pennies that same year. And the San Francisco Mint added another 4 million. Denver made so few that numismatists quickly recognized the 1914 D as a key date, one of the hardest Lincoln cents to find in any condition. And because they were so scarce, the ones that circulated got worn hard. Most surviving examples show significant wear. Even heavily worn examples, coins that have been rubbed nearly smooth, regularly sell for several $1,000s. Move up to a nicer grade and you're looking at tens of thousands. Get into mint state? The sky is the limit. So what makes this one so hard to find and so easy to fake? The 1914 D has one of the highest rates of alteration of any U.S. coin. Because a 1914 Philadelphia penny and a 1914 S San Francisco penny are both far more common and far less valuable, some dishonest people have been caught adding a fake D mint mark to those coins to pass them off as the rare Denver version. The real D on a genuine 1914 D is struck into the coin during the minting process. It should look like it belongs there. Same metal texture, same surface depth, same patina as the rest of the coin. A fake D is usually added after the fact by soldering or tooling, and under magnification, it looks slightly different. Wrong texture. Wrong depth, sometimes slightly off-center. Always get a 1914 D authenticated and graded by a professional third-party grader before buying or selling. No exceptions. So where do you find a real one? Key dates like the 1914 D almost never show up in loose pocket change anymore. They've been picked out, sorted, and saved by collectors for decades. Your best hunting grounds are estate sales where unsorted collections come to market and coin dealers who buy collections without fully sorting them. Go through every wheat cent you can get your hands on. Check every 1914 Lincoln cent for that D mint mark below the date. If you find one, stop. Set everything else down. Get that coin to safety. 1 million minted in Denver, most worn to nothing. Most gone forever. The ones left? Worth a small fortune and getting rarer every year. Let's travel back in time, over a century ago, to a penny that represents a true early American rarity, the 1914 Lincoln wheat cent. Many of these early pennies are just beautiful pieces of history, but some, like this one, are true financial finds. The 1914 penny is generally considered a common date if it doesn't have a mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Those are often worth just $1 or $2 in good condition. But if your 1914 penny has one specific tiny detail, its value skyrockets. We're talking about the 1914 D Lincoln cent. The D mint mark, located just below the date on the reverse side of the coin, indicates it was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1914, the Denver Mint produced far fewer pennies than Philadelphia or San Francisco. They minted just over 1.1 million of these D-marked coins, a tiny fraction compared to the Philadelphia production. This low mintage makes the 1914 D one of the crucial key dates in the entire wheat penny series. Because of its extreme scarcity, the 1914 D cent is highly sought after by collectors. Even in a very worn, circulated condition, the kind you might find in an old cigar box or dusty drawer, a 1914 D penny can easily be worth $200 to $300 or more. If you manage to find one in better condition, that value can climb into the thousands. This is a perfect example of an ugly coin that holds immense value because of its history and rarity, not its pristine appearance. It's not about how shiny it is. It's about that tiny letter. So, when you're looking through old pennies, slow down when you see those early dates. Every 1914 penny deserves a close inspection with a magnifying glass. Flip it over. check under the date. Is there a faint D hiding there? If so, you've just found a significant piece of American history and a substantial boost to your coin collection's value. It's a hunt for a tiny letter that can lead to a big payoff. Here's another penny that perfectly embodies the idea of a hidden treasure. The 1917 Lincoln wheat penny. On its own, a common date. Millions were minted. But there's a specific, sought-after error that can transform this ordinary coin into a collector's dream, fetching hundreds, even thousands of dollars. We're talking about the 1917 double die obverse. Just like with the rare 1958 Dido, this error occurred when the die struck the planchet twice, slightly misaligned, creating a distinct doubling. For the 1917 Dido, this effect is most prominent on the word Liberty across the top of the coin, and sometimes on the date itself. It's often described as a clear, distinct separation of the letters, almost like a shadow or a slight offset. This isn't just wear and tear, it's a legitimate, recognizable mint error. While not as astronomically rare as the 1958 Dido, the 1917 double die obverse is still a highly prized variety. Depending on its condition, even a circulated example can be worth anywhere from $200 to $500. In higher grades, uncirculated examples have sold for over $8,500. Imagine finding that kind of value in a coin that looks like it barely survived a century of circulation. It's a testament to the fact that even seemingly common years can hide extraordinary secrets. So, what's your mission? Get out your magnifying glass and scrutinize the word Liberty on any 1917 penny you find. Pay close attention to the serifs and the edges of the letters. Do they appear thicker or slightly split? Does it look like an optical illusion? If you spot that clear doubling, you've got a fantastic find on your hands. This is a subtle error with a significant reward, proving that sometimes the biggest treasures are hidden in the smallest details. Here's another example of a coin that defies its appearance. The 1924 Lincoln wheat penny. If you're new to coin collecting, you might dismiss an old, worn 1924 penny as just, well, old. But just like our 1914 D, the mint mark on this coin tells a critical story. This is another one of those ugly coins that, with a single tiny letter, transforms into a valuable treasure. If your 1924 penny has a D mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Denver Mint, you've found a key date. The 1924 D Lincoln cent had a relatively low mintage for the era, with only 2.5 million coins produced. Compare that to the staggering 50 million from Philadelphia in the same year, and you start to understand its scarcity. This significant difference in mintage makes the 1924 D a sought-after rarity, even in less than perfect condition. Because of its scarcity, the 1924 D penny maintains a strong value among collectors. Even in a very worn condition, you can expect a 1924 D to be worth anywhere from $30 to $50. And if you happen to find one in a better grade, its value can quickly jump into the hundreds, with uncirculated examples regularly fetching over $1,000. This isn't a speculative error, it's a consistent value based on sheer rarity and demand from collectors eager to complete their sets. So, what's the lesson here? Don't let the age or the wear fool you. Every 1924 penny needs to be flipped over and inspected for that telltale D mint mark. It's a tiny detail that unlocks a significant increase in value. This is another perfect example of how the humble penny, especially an ugly one, can surprise you with a hidden fortune. Keep your eyes peeled for those Denver beauties. Now, here's a coin that most people wouldn't even give a second glance. The 1939 Lincoln wheat penny. It's a common date, usually found in abundance. In fact, on its own, a 1939 penny is typically worth just a few cents. But just like some of our other surprise million-dollar finds, even the most common years can hide extraordinary errors. And the 1939 penny is a perfect example thanks to a very specific and very valuable double die error. We're talking about the 1939 double die reverse penny. Unlike our earlier examples where the doubling was on the obverse the front with Lincoln's portrait, this error is found on the reverse side of the coin, the tails side. Specifically, you need to look very closely at the words United States of America and the motto E pluribus unum. The doubling is often quite clear and distinct on the letters, making them appear thicker or shadowed. This error, while not as famous as some others, is highly sought after by collectors. A genuine 1939 double-die reverse penny, even in circulated condition, can be worth anywhere from $100 to $500. In better grades, uncirculated examples have fetched over $1,500. This is a fantastic example of why you can never simply glance at a date and dismiss a coin. Every single penny, regardless of its perceived commonness, deserves a thorough inspection. It's the ultimate ugly coin, beautiful secret story, proving that even seemingly ordinary coins can hide substantial wealth. So, next time you come across a 1939 penny, don't just put it back. Take a moment. Flip it over. Use your magnifying glass and meticulously scan the lettering on the reverse. If you see that telltale doubling, that extra thickness or shadow on the words United States of America, then you've just turned a few cents into a few hundred or even a few $1,000s. This common-looking coin is a perfect reminder that the real treasures are often hidden in plain sight. Finally, we arrive at a coin that might seem like the most ordinary of the bunch. The 1946 Lincoln wheat penny. Billions of these were minted across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. On its face, a 1946 penny is about as common as they come, usually only worth its copper content, a few cents at best. You might think no errors, no key dates, nothing special here. But that's exactly where many treasure hunters go wrong. This seemingly unremarkable coin serves as our ultimate reminder: never, ever overlook a wheat penny. While the 1946 isn't famous for a massive double die error or a super low mintage like some of our other stars today, it still holds potential. Every year of wheat pennies has its subtle variations, its minor die errors, and its condition-based premiums. For a 1946 penny, it's about checking for a pristine S mint mark from San Francisco or a clear D from Denver. In extremely high uncirculated grades, even a common date like a 1946 can fetch a decent $50 to $100, simply because collectors want perfect examples for their sets. That's a significant jump from a few cents. More importantly, the 1946 penny reminds us of the core principle of our penny band treasure hunt. Every single wheat penny is worth inspecting. You're not just looking for the headline errors, you're looking for any deviation, any rarity, any flaw that makes it unique. Is there a subtle repunched mint mark? Is there a striking error like a lamination or a blank planche error? These can happen on any date and turn a common coin into a valuable find. It's about patience. It's about knowledge. It's about giving every old penny a chance. So when you encounter a 1946 or any other seemingly common wheat penny, don't let it pass by. Check for those mint marks. Look at the condition. And remember that the truly dedicated treasure hunter knows that even the most ugly and common coins can be hiding a surprising amount of value. The penny ban is coming, so now is the time to uncover those hidden fortunes before they're gone forever.